Bonsai Universe, the miniature universe. Anything could be, every person and every song.
I'm here with Woody Aplanalp of Bonsai Universe. The album's called Moonstream.
Thanks for having me. I'm using bonsai as an adjective for something that could be cared for and miniaturized.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the concept is that anything can be a bonsai universe. You know, like each person is their own miniature universe, and each song is its own little universe. I wanted to create sort of a template where I wouldn't have to be stuck to one style also. A lot of the bands, you know, I liked when I was a kid, like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, they did all these different styles and different feels. I just want to be able to make art and make songs and not have to, you know, be stuck to, you know, one sound.
Sure.
And that's why, you know, on the record, I put some things that are wildly different than other things to illustrate that even further.
I thought it was a great name.
Oh, thanks.
I wanted to ask you about the writing of the album. How long ago was this begun?
There's a couple songs that go way back, but for the most part, I'd say within the last year.
That's kind of what I thought. First of all, it's a beautiful album. One of the things that struck me about it, this last year has been so chaotic overall, you know, with all the news.
Sure.
It seemed like this was almost like a tonic or a remedy for that.
I think you're actually really onto something there, Jim, because you know, basically, so the title track, Moonstream, the first line of the album is forget about the crazy world, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely an element of escapism and a reaction to the situation.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful reaction. And I keep coming back to that word beautiful. You know, there's something atmospheric happening on the album that's a great headphone album.
Thank you.
Obviously, you're using the entire soundscape.
Try to sort of, you know, make it psychedelic. You know, I like my ear candy.
I definitely think there's a cinematic thing going on. One of the things that struck me, too, about it is the vocal harmonies.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be my influences coming through, but I felt at times there was a bit of a Brian Wilson feel to the harmonies, and other times it was more of a, I don't want to say Eagles feel.
Well, every song is different. Of course, I'm a fan of Brian Wilson's vocal work. In terms of the 70s classic rock vibe, I was never like a big Eagles guy, but I really was into Crosby, Stills and Nash and Neil Young.
Okay.
And so more Neil Young, actually. That's, you know, one of my heroes. And also, you know, I was always into Pink Floyd, and they didn't really do outrageous harmony work, but they did have some cool two-part stuff happening.
Let's talk a little bit about your background, if that's cool.
Of course.
What region did you grow up in, and when did you start doing music, and what were your first instruments?
Okay, I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley, in the city of Rosemead, to be particular. Mm-hmm. I started playing classical guitar when I was 7, taking lessons on classical. I really wanted to play electric, but my dad was like, well, okay, but you're going to play classical first. Obviously, being a little kid, I didn't have much choice in the matter, so I went ahead and did some classical lessons. And then when I was 14, I got an electric guitar. And I was into, you know, I liked the Beatles and the blues and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and, you know, Neil Young. So that was kind of, you know, the first stuff I was into, you know, as a kid that wasn't just whatever was on the radio or when I started seeking out my own music that I liked.
Mm.
And then when I got to junior college after high school, I went to PCC and got in a jazz combo with Bobby Bradford. Bobby Bradford is a great cornetist. He worked with Ornette Coleman. Mm-hmm. And so he exposed me to some what I consider to be really hipper jazz. You know, my dad's a bebop guy. So I was exposed to that kind of jazz, but that wasn't really my cup of tea as a kid. So later when I found out some of the more experimental and adventurous jazz, that was something I could relate to a little bit more. But that did open the door to improvisation and the late Coltrane stuff, and then the Miles Davis when he was in his experimental stages. So, you know, I went through kind of a big jazz phase there too, but always having Neil Young and, you know, that kind of songwriting there as a thread that never went away.
I can definitely get some Neil Young in the album. Now, I've seen...
Well, you know, it's funny because Neil is one of my oldest heroes. Now, that the drummer who played on the album is actually Neil Young's drummer for the last few years. It's Anthony Legerfo, who I think he's been playing for at least 10 years with Lucas Nelson, who's Willie's son. And then Neil Young picked up that band, Promise of the Real, as his touring and recording band about 3 years ago. So it's fun for me to have that connection. Got Neil's drummer on there.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the musicians that played with you in the album?
Sure. The songs that have the drum set, and those are Am I Good Enough, Walking With My Eyes Closed, and the third one is Too Real.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the three songs that have live drums and bass on them. And it's Anthony Legerfo on drums, and then there's my buddy Jason Chesney, who I think he was with me in that jazz combo at PCC that I mentioned. We started playing then, and then, we were in several bands over the years. In the 90s, we were in like a free jazz band called the And Now Ensemble. Was really fun. And then we played together in a group called Old California for several years. So those are the guys on those songs. And then Justin Smith, who's also from Old California, he sang some of the background harmonies on a few of the songs. Lila Avila, who's John Avila's daughter, she does the background vocals on Summertime.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've got Miguel Atwood Ferguson, who's a wonderful viola player and arranger, and his career's really been taking off lately, doing all kinds of great stuff. But he did the strings on everything.
I was going to ask about that because, obviously there's an unlimited palette that you can draw from, both electronic and more traditional instrumentation. How did you decide what to use for what parts?
Well, again, every song is kind of a different story.
Mm-hmm. Well,
some of the songs, like Moonstream and Starstream, were created using a lot of the synth sounds and the electronic thing as a soundscape first, instrumental, and then sort of putting a song into it. Whereas Everything and Too Real, A Lot of Nerve, those ones, Summertime, those ones were written on guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Am I Good Enough, Walking With My Eyes Closed, those were kind of written in the old-fashioned strumming a guitar way. And then producing it in a way that I tried to connect the songs together throughout the album with that sort of quirky synthesizer, futuristic, semi-electronic way, without being like, quote-unquote, electronic music. Because when you say that, people usually think of dance music. But yeah, I just, I enjoy all different kinds of sounds and just tried to make it interesting for myself.
Well, I think you made it pretty interesting for everybody. Space is one of my favorite themes that's kind of weaved throughout the album.
Space, I guess there's a little element of David Bowie passed away, and I felt that one, particularly acutely. One of the first songs I ever used to cover, when I was a teenager playing songs was Space Oddity. And I just always was attracted to, songs about space. Always just was attracted to that. And then, Moonstream happened, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I can make this sort of a concept.
Mm-hmm. Lyrically, there's some definite fun wordplay going on, but, that's always another area that can be tricky.
Again, every song is kind of different. I'll admit that I'm no Bob Dylan, so once that's out of the way, I can sometimes have fun with it. Sometimes stuff just comes, and I just follow a thread, wherever it's going. Like the song Once Upon a Dream, the first two lines of that actually came to me in a dream, which is why it's called Once Upon a Dream. Those words don't appear really anywhere in the song. Yeah. But, those first two lines came, and then I was like, okay, I should try to finish this. And so basically the rest of the song is just, my project of finishing out, complete that dream that started.
I like that.
But so Moonstream is inspired by the song Moon River. And there's a version of the song by Audrey Hepburn in the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, right? And so that's the version that I sort of was attracted to, and I wanted to there was a certain feeling to that I wanted to capture, so I wrote the instrumental of Moonstream, and that was sort of my way of sort of getting into that vibe. The lyrics were written as a tribute to just the feeling I had from that song.
Well, I think it's a great album. It's one that I think inspires repeated listening to different environments. I could see someone taking a long nighttime drive listening to it, or kicking back with headphones.
I hope enough people hear it that they can, experiment with that.
Yeah, definitely. People can get it at iTunes and on...
It should be out on all the popular music sources, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Pandora, whatever the kids are doing these days. I think it's on all those sources. The physical CDs, I think you can get them on CD Baby.
Okay.
Besides the streaming services, I think that's the way you would actually get a physical copy. Unless, of course, you can, come to a gig and then I'll sell them there.
Are there plans for like a live version of the album?
Yeah, I just booked a gig yesterday, as a matter of fact. It's going to be a record store in-store at a place called Pop Obscure in downtown L.A.
Oh, wow.
February 17th, 6 p.m.
Awesome.
That's right, it's a Saturday.
That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So that'll be the debut of the live band. We'll play some stuff from the album, and if there's time, maybe we'll do a new one. I should probably tell you who's in the band. I've got Justin Smith playing drums, and he was my bandmate in Old California. I've got Evan Taylor playing percussion. I've got Caroline Cerrone playing bass, and Robert Hall on synthesizer. And hopefully you can check that out.
It sounds like a good, solid band to get.
Yeah, it should be nice. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, and I should mention that's with my friend's band, Dylan McKenzie. He has a really cool band called Dirty Verdi. I think they have a new EP that they're going to be having there.
Like a dual release party.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking some time out to talk about the new album. I'm really excited about this.
My pleasure. Thank you. Me too.
This is Jimmy Hankins from Hankinsland. If you enjoyed the video, please hit like, subscribe to the channel for more content, and share it. Check out the band's website, and support local live music in your area.